Hello and welcome to the TID Water and Power Podcast. I'm your host, Constance Anderson, and on this month's episode, we're discussing materials management. Driving around our community, it's impossible to miss TID equipment, from poles to transformers, vehicles, canals, irrigation gates, and everything in between. At TID, the Materials Management Department is tasked with providing all of these items. But it's much more than that. As a publicly owned utility, TID has strict purchasing guidelines it has to meet, and the Materials Management Department ensures that the district always stays in compliance. On this episode, I'm joined by TID Materials Management Department Manager Jason Perez to discuss the district's purchasing requirements, how we work with vendors and suppliers, and how we manage an inventory of thousands of pieces of equipment. Jason, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. As we do with all of our guests, I'd love to start with a little bit of your background. Would you tell us where you've been and how'd you get here?
Yeah. So I joined TID in September of 2024 as the Materials Management Department Manager. Before TID, I've had a couple of stints in public procurement, public and private purchasing procurement. Started my career with a manufacturing company. From that company, I started out as an actually assembly person on the floor.
Okay.
And moved up into mid-management, which was a position as a QC. Which is quality control.
Okay, got it.
And from quality control, I moved into a buyer position. From the buyer position, moved into senior buyer. It was a private company that I got to get some experience in with supply chain. They were a manufacturer of finished goods, and so I got to get my feet wet for the first time in procurement that way in the private field.
Okay.
From there, I moved on to post-secondary, which is educational side of procurement. With a company called Central Valley Opportunity Center, where I was their purchasing and building maintenance manager and the head of the DOT, which is the Department of Transportation.
Okay.
And so I did everything from purchasing a pencil to capital projects.
Wow.
To real property as well. So that got me into learning about the public aspect of it. I left CVOC, which is Central Valley Opportunity Center, and moved on to another sector of public procurement, which is Special District, and that was with Merced Irrigation District. And there I was the purchasing agent. And so that was my first stint in Special District, and it was a great experience. Learned a lot about the special district portion of it, irrigation districts in particular. After that, I moved on to Merced Union High School District, where I was their purchasing manager. I learned a lot about ed code, educational code. And so that's a different sector, obviously back to post-secondary of public procurement. There I managed everything from, like, as far as procurement's concerned, from, again, a pencil to capital projects to real property. And I also was promoted to a purchasing director.
Okay, great.
And how I landed here was I saw that there was an opening for Turlock Irrigation District. And from a while back ago when I first started in procurement, you always hear of Turlock Irrigation District. And so when I saw the opening, I took the opportunity, and here I am.
Here you are. Excellent. So in a previous conversation you and I had, you told me a funny story about being in a room full of your fellow procurement officials. Can you retell that for our listeners?
Yes, it's at an annual conference for California Association of Public Procurement Officials, which we call CAPO.
Okay.
And within that, as I'm sitting in my first CAPO event ever, the keynote speaker walks up and says, okay, so everybody that's in this room, and it was a few hundred people in that room, raise your hand if your career goal was to deal with purchasing or become a purchasing officer or manager. And nobody raised their hand.
Nobody raised their hand.
So everybody starts laughing, and he basically said, we all ended up here because our path chose us. So our path made us go this way.
Yeah.
And so that's always stuck with me. I thought about that. It wasn't my goal to be in purchasing, but it is a field that is growing pretty rapidly.
Absolutely. And I make you retell the story. Thank you for that. Because that's so true, right? I think materials management is one of those like unsung heroes that we never hear about. You don't grow up thinking, I want to be in purchasing unless you know someone who has held that role and who has, kind of shared that experience with you. So hopefully after today's podcast, we'll have a few more people out there that look to grow up to be in purchasing. So let's start by kind of describing where materials management falls in the greater TID organizational chart. What administration is materials management in, and what are the areas that are under materials management?
So Materials Management Department falls under the Financial Services Administration. Underneath Materials Management Department is two other divisions. Sorry.
Okay.
And that is the Purchasing Division and Warehouse Division.
Okay. And so at high level, kind of what is the role of each of those two divisions?
So for purchasing, anything that is procured in the district we hold compliance portion of that. Make sure that we are purchasing within state and federal compliance codes.
Okay.
The warehouse keeps inventory for infrastructure within the district. They keep inventory for items that are for infrastructure that needs maintained or for new projects, whatever that may be.
Okay. So fair to say purchasing is going to source the item, bring it in, and then it's turned over to warehouse to kind of maintain that, keep tabs on what we have in inventory.
Correct.
Okay. So let's start on the purchasing side. As a publicly owned utility, I'm sure TID has specific guidelines that it has to follow in regard to procuring either products or services. What sort of guidelines or compliance does TID have to follow?
We have to follow plenty of codes, as we call them. So Public Contract Code, Code of Federal Regulation, Irrigation Code, Water Code. There's a few more codes. We can be here probably all day, but those are majority of the main codes that we kind of look at.
Okay, and I would guess that not all of these codes perfectly align with one another. So how do you determine which code you're going to follow at which time?
So they do not. So Public Contract Code is a state regulation, and Code of Federal Regulation, which is federal.
Okay.
So the two have different compliance categories that you have to follow. But the district itself, in consolidating all of the codes that we have to follow, we follow the most stringent. So therefore, we're not having to confuse end users and say, no, we're doing this with federal, we're doing this with state. We just across the board say, no, we have one standard and this is our standard in order to meet all the compliance that needs to happen. Okay,
that makes sense. So how many folks are on the materials management team? And among them, how are the different projects or the work distributed amongst the team?
So there's 13 on the staff. There's 6 in the warehouse. There's 7 in purchasing. In the purchasing department, work is distributed, workflow distributed by a level of buyer. So we have 3 senior buyers, 2 senior buyers, 2 senior 1 buyers, 1 senior 2.
Okay.
We have 2 buyers underneath them, and we have a purchasing technician.
Okay.
And so how the workflow goes within our financial software system is requisitions come through, they will go to the senior buyers. The senior buyers, they're assigned to the senior buyers by cost center. So the cost center within the account code will determine where the requisition will go. And it goes to the senior buyer, who determines at a threshold each level of buyer, from purchasing technician to buyer to senior buyers, all have a approval authority. And within that is how the work gets distributed on down.
Okay. So if I can back up for a second. So a requisition comes in, and basically that's, I work at TID in X department and I am requesting to purchase this product, let's say. Okay. And then it's divided, you mentioned it's divided by cost center, and the cost center then would be reflective of like my department, for example.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. And so then based kind of on the complexity or the dollar amount of what's being requested, then that is divided amongst the staff accordingly.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. I follow. Thank you for that. All right. So how does the district manage potential vendors and suppliers? And what is the process to be considered as a supplier for the district?
So suppliers are vetted, verified, and we have a supplier portal. It's on the TID website. Do business with TID is what the link is.
Okay.
And the suppliers can register, become a new supplier there. Once they get into that link, it'll take them to our financial software system, where it prompts the purchasing tech to go ahead and vet their information and put them on our supplier list.
Okay, excellent. And are there specific requirements that a vendor or a supplier has to meet in order to be added to that list?
Yes. For materials and goods, there's certain criteria, and there's different criteria for construction.
Okay.
And there's a lot of different things that they have to comply with. So in construction, it would be that they would need to be registered with the Department of Industrial Relations because they do public works. And that's also upon the threshold of what the project is. So there's monetary values that trigger certain compliances.
Okay.
So if you're a carpenter that wants to be on the suppliers list, you would have to meet all those areas in the supplier portal.
Okay.
To be accepted. So we have to make sure that the contractor has their contracting license through the contractor's state license board.
Is there a different process then between procuring products versus services?
It's basically the same process, but the difference between them, it will be the monetary level.
Okay.
The higher dollar amount, the stricter their criteria, more information for making the purchases would be necessary.
Got it. Okay. So not so much what is being purchased, but the dollar amount of the total contract.
That's the driver. Is the threshold as well as scope of work.
Okay. Makes sense. So when we do need to go out to bid for products or for services, you guys refer to that as a solicitation. Is that right? Okay. But not all solicitation processes are the same, and there's kind of an alphabet soup of options. Can you explain for us the difference between an RFP versus an RFB versus another acronym?
Sure.
I know there are a few of them out there.
Yeah, an RFP is request for proposal. IFB is an invitation for bid, and RFB is request for bid. Okay. So a request for bid would basically be for our inventory items that go into our stock items that go into our warehouse. And those are specific to our specifications of what we're, of the product that we're buying. Okay. That we're purchasing. IFB is an invitation for bid, which is basically we know what we want and we know how to get there. So our scope of work is going to be very detailed in saying, this is what we need to do. This is what we want. So bid bid
off
for
of
the
these
specs.
specifications.
Yes, of these specifications.
Okay.
And the RFP is, we know what we want, but we may not quite know how we want to get there. So we're going to ask you how you're going to help us achieve what we'd like to get, what we would like to purchase.
Okay. Here's the end goal.
Yes.
What's your best recommendation on how to get us there?
And we still have guidelines in that as far as scope of work's concerned. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, yeah, it's kind of a, hey, there is some room in there for you to tell us how you can do this and help in saving the district, capital.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So now let's say we've determined which of those processes we're going to use. Can you walk us through what the solicitation process actually looks like?
Yes. So we have started working on a capital projects list. So every year the capital projects list for each department is passed by the board. It goes on a spreadsheet. And on that spreadsheet, it has got an array of a list of who is the administration to the department manager to the division manager to, if it need be, a project manager, whoever's going to drive that project. Mm-hmm. So within those administrations and within those divisions, there is a cost center. So within that cost center, it is assigned to a specific buyer.
Okay.
So that buyer and that project manager will now meet, and they will meet on a quarterly basis and start scheduling and planning out their capital projects for the year.
Okay.
Once that is done, and they determine what solicitation they're going to use, then it's pretty standard as far as what, the time frame is concerned, as far as what the hierarchy of what's going to happen next. So it would be develop the solicitation, go out to bid, receive proposals, review, and award, then enter into an agreement. The process itself can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. I've seen some take a year, possibly longer, just depending on the complexity of the project.
Okay. So after the bids or the proposals are received and they've been reviewed, what does the process look like for selecting the winning bid? How does that happen?
Again, each solicitation has a different criteria as far as evaluation is concerned and award. There's multiple ways to do it. But a evaluation committee is formed, and they will then take into consideration how they're going to evaluate and award.
All right. So when we're looking at very large projects like the Don Pedro Life Extension project, for example, is the purchasing process any different when we're talking about like these huge, very expensive pieces of equipment and all the rest that goes along with it?
Sure. Higher the monetary value, the more complex they do get.
Okay.
We do have a standard format. And what changes that is the scope of work.
Okay.
Because of the complexity of it.
Okay. From a purchasing perspective, have the recent tariffs or other cost increases impacted the district at all?
We did our best to get in front of tariffs. Obviously, it's a very fluent situation, I guess you can say, because it's forever changing.
Sure.
But we adjusted our T's and C's, which is our terms and conditions and our general provisions on our solicitations.
Okay.
To mitigate as much as we can. We added some requirements to make sure that the tariffs that were that are being applied to us are actually being applied to our vendor. Our supplier.
Okay.
So we want to verify that they did actually spend that money on that, product, and they absorb that tariff as they try to pass it along to the district.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So that's pretty tricky to navigate, but we've been doing our best, and we've been doing okay.
Yeah. Good. And like you said, it's an ever-changing situation. So what might be applied one day could be completely different a week from now.
I believe it changed just yesterday.
Is that right?
Yes.
Jeez. That's a lot to keep up with. And now I know over the last few years, dating as far back as kind of the COVID era, if you will, we've dealt with some supply chain issues for a lot of the components that we need to keep on hand. The first one that comes to mind is transformers. How has your team balanced those supply chain fluctuations?
What we've worked on the most to mitigate supply chain issues is forecasting.
Okay.
Forecasting to understand what we can get at, when we can get it, what the market looks like, as well as forecasting ourselves into knowing what we purchase when we purchase it throughout the year through annual usages.
Okay.
So we have seasons. So if you look at, just say the line department, for instance, there's a winter season. So we know during the winter season, there could be some rain, some lightning, and it can take out some poles. So
sure.
Historically, what does that look like?
Okay.
We forecast for that. Operations maintenance. We have a down period. Well, not so much in the line field, but they have some time where they schedule out what they're going to repair or maintain, or do annual maintenance on.
Yeah.
To keep operational. Same with water. They do the same thing. They have their time frame, their seasons. They have water season. Once water season's down, is over, then they start repairing everything they can, maintaining everything they can, make sure everything is operational. Along with the power substations, they have scheduled outages. So at that point in time, we know what they're going to need to maintain the substation. So all those little areas of understanding when those things happen within the year is how they forecast for what is happening as far as what's being kept on hand in stock and inventory in the warehouse, and how we try to mitigate any supply chain issues.
Okay, gotcha. And so I would imagine, your team has that forecasting that they look to, but there's probably a certain amount of coordination as well between purchasing, warehouse, the project managers of different jobs, as far as like what out of the ordinary is coming. Are we doing a big project that we don't normally do on an annual basis that requires more materials?
Correct. And that's driven by what we call our internal customer. So whether it be the line department, it would be engineering on water side and the power side, determining what out of the ordinary is going to happen within the year. Those projects are kept on a capital projects list.
Okay. Yep.
And so that's how we forecast for those events as well.
Okay. Makes sense. All right. So let's flip over now to the warehouse side. While I think it's traditionally what people would think of when we say warehouse, with shelves of various components ready to go, and ready to complete the necessary work at TID, there's a lot more that goes on in the warehouse than just stocking shelves. Tell us a little bit about that.
So they organize, handle, and store district materials, tools, for capital projects, such as like substations, for new customers, new projects. So servicing our internal customer is big. And so bill of materials, specs, standards, what is needed to fill the components and materials that they need for their jobs to do out in maintaining or on projects, whatever it may be. But they also have what they call ding-offs.
Ding-offs?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so ding-offs are as the equipment goes out, when they're doing their maintenance or whatever it may be, the repairs or putting in something new. Sometimes they bring stuff there's material that they have to bring back that they're going to dispose of. Well, on that, what the warehouse does is they look at whatever is salvageable and repurpose it and put it in stock.
Oh, great.
In order for us to save this district money.
Yeah, and prevent that from just going in the landfill somewhere. If there are parts of it that can be reused, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. So now within that inventory, I understand there are maximums and minimums. Can you tell us kind of how those guidelines come into play?
Sure. So again, forecasting.
Okay.
Back to forecasting. Looking at your mins and your maxes is what we call them. So at minimum, I'm going to keep this inventory because it's going to cover me in what I need as far as my operations and the maintenance side of infrastructure is concerned, maintaining.
Okay.
Maximums this is as much as we're going to keep outside of, inventory, true inventory. If we have product that we need to keep inside the warehouse because it's an one-off project, then that would be different.
Okay. And now I know the warehouse takes very seriously or puts a lot of care into taking care of their internal customers. Tell us how that process works. If I'm on one of the line crews and I come in and I say, okay, here's what I need to get this project done. How does the warehouse support that?
So the internal customer would come in. They have what we call a BOM, bill of material.
Okay.
And so they bring their bill of material in, hand it to one of the warehouse staff, and then they go and pick the items that are on that BOM, as we call it.
Okay. And then that helps the different crews get ready for the job ahead.
In order for them to complete that job that is on that bill of material. So each bill of material is printed out or created is for a specific job. So whether it be to dig a hole to go put in a new pole, to go put in wire, it's specific to projects that are already pre-existing for the district.
Okay, excellent. What are some of the products that we always need to have on hand in the warehouse?
Irrigation gates, water plug, transformers, poles, wire, cross arms, PPE.
And what's
meters.
PPE?
Personal protection equipment.
Okay, got it.
Various nuts, bolts, nuts, tools, essential to district operations.
And maybe not transformers, but it sounds like some of those items you could maybe pick up at Lowe's. Why is it important for us to have them in our warehouse?
For reliability and sustainability. Having these needed on hand to maintain the district's operations during emergencies. There's times where emergencies happen when at the end of business, there's no stores, no Lowe's or no Home Depot that's open to gather some material. Not that you can gather all this material at either one of those stores because there's some pretty unique things to the district. That's the reason why it's important for us to maintain.
All right. And you kind of touched on it, but not all of the jobs that are completed at TID are scheduled out in advance. So we don't always have advanced warning on what materials are going to be needed. How does the warehouse prepare for emergency situations and making sure that we have on hand what we need when we don't yet know what's going to go wrong? Yeah.
Again, it goes back to forecasting, understanding the seasons that we have. Obviously, there's a storm season. There's excess heat. Understanding historical data, understanding what our usages are from whether it be 3, 6, 12-month usages, you can forecast through there what's happened that's offset of what is normal to what we would consider normal to a season.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense. All right. So how does the warehouse track the actual inventory of what's physically there? Like, obviously, shipments come in, they have a count of things, but how do they kind of keep track on a day-to-day basis of what's actually in the warehouse?
We just entered into a new ERP system, and so within that system, they're able to see their mins and maxes. They're able to track their orders. They're able to cycle count. And when they cycle count by category. And when those cycle counts happen, you're able to identify your A, B, and C movers, which A would be your fast movers, B would be your mid-range movers, and C would be your occasional mover in a year. Gotcha.
And can you define for me what a cycle count is?
Sure. Cycle count is when you're looking at your inventory within your financial system, when you're in your software system, and actually counting and physically seeing if those counts match.
Oh, okay.
If perpetually it says this is what you, in your system says this is what you have on hand, to physically going out and counting and saying, yes, they either reconcile or we're off one way or the other.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to my question about the large projects on the purchasing side. Is the inventory and handling of the materials and supplies for those larger projects different than the more day-to-day supplies?
Yes. So those are very specific to the projects. There could be some existing, again, going back to our capital projects list, there could be some existing operations and maintenance projects within those capital projects that we would keep inventory on hand for. You can definitely forecast for that, but for the most part, it's going to be in the scope of work in that project, and they're pretty specific to projects and the items, and the contractor will buy that material. Obviously charge it to the district, but it'll be in their complete bid.
Okay. Very good. Now, a lot of this equipment that we're talking about is very large. So aside from the warehouse itself, where does all of this get stored until it actually is implemented or goes to use in the project?
Yeah, each TID site, there is a location for storage.
Okay.
Whether it be their equipment they store or whether it be material that they store, but they do have location on each site. They do have storage.
Okay. And then how do each of those storage facilities or the warehouses at each of those individual facilities coordinate with the staff at the main warehouse to kind of keep tabs on total inventory?
The communication, definitely. That's the main thing. But a lot of it is coming through the main warehouse. You kind of look at it as a hub. So when things come in, the communication line comes from an off-site personnel to call in the warehouse and say, hey, we're having such and such delivered to you. Let's coordinate on how we can get it to whether it be the site itself, TID site itself, or the project site.
Got it. Okay. All right. So now I want to have a little fun and see if you can provide us with some fast facts with regard to the district's purchasing habits. Okay. You ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So we discussed earlier that a solicitation is where we go out for bid or proposal for purchases or contracts that are valued at $25,000 or more. How many of those solicitations has TID conducted this year?
So as of today, we have 58.
Okay. And how many total purchases have gone through materials management this year?
As of today, 2,700.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Okay. How many transformers have been purchased and received?
So we've received 404. What's still remaining on order is 51.
Oh, my goodness. That's a lot. And how about power poles?
483. That is very specific.
Very specific. Okay. What about irrigation gates?
26.
26. Okay. All right. This is a fun one. How many square feet of gunite has the district purchased?
750,000 square feet.
Whoa.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yes. There's the Walmart on gear is approximately 60,000 square feet. So doing the math, that's about 11 and a half Walmarts.
11 and a half Walmarts of gunite. Wow. That covers some territory for sure. Okay. How about the number of safety glasses purchased?
1,824.
We are a safety priority organization.
PPE.
That's it. Okay. How about this? What is the product we buy each year, but that we buy the lowest quantity of?
Rain gear.
Rain gear. Yes. Okay.
Yes, always need it. Hopefully need plenty of it.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. We'll never say no to rain. Okay. Conversely then, what is the product we buy the most of each year?
Toilet paper.
I probably could have guessed that one if I really thought about it.
We can just say paper in general.
Paper in general.
Paper products in general.
Sure. That makes sense.
We'll combine it with everything else.
Oh, that's fantastic. Jason, before we let you go, is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
Yeah. So as I tell my staff, and I will tell everybody else that will listen, Materials Management Department is the hub of the district. We have our hand in everything. Again, from anything you purchase, from a pen to capital projects to capital, materials, goods, services. Sure. We support all departments internally. We have internal and external customers. We want to make sure internally that whatever you're wanting to purchase and whatever you're wanting to store, that we're able to do so for you. I believe that we're ready at any time for anything as the ever-changing world of our district happens. And all this to make sure that we align with TID's mission statement was in reliability and affordability, but I also would like to add in their sustainability.
Makes sense. And we certainly appreciate the work of your group to keep us in compliance, keep us prepared, and help us maintain that high standard of reliability. So thank you to you and your team. Thank you for tuning in to the TID Water and Power Podcast. You can find TID on Facebook at facebook.com/TurlockID, on Instagram and Twitter at TurlockID, and on LinkedIn as the Turlock Irrigation District. I'm your host, Constance Anderson. We'll see you again next time.